Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Today we are doing another episode of Midnight Temple Alchemy. And this episode is on grief. And this was an episode that was requested, I believe back in December. And I'm finally here. I am working our way through the emotional scale. And now we have landed on grief. So let's talk about it. I would like to pull, of course, from some of my personal experiences, and then I want to talk about how I view grief overall. And, I can't remember what number it is on the emotional scale, but it will be on the video. It will be in the thumbnail for the video of what the vibrational number is for it, okay? I think it might be 50, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so from my personal experiences, grief, of course, came from losing people, right? And a big part of that, especially if you are really into like manifestation videos and things like that, and like the more spiritual aspects of like everybody is you pushed out, right? And how we're all one and all those things. Like losing other people, whether it be through death or they move away or you have a falling out, it always has something to do with their impact on you and how the connection is severed, right? So it's almost like every time someone leaves your life in one way or another, you're losing a part of yourself. And energetically speaking, this can feel, especially if you're really in tune with like the energetic cords, right? If you can really feel energy and how it moves through you and how you connect to other people on an energetic level, it can feel like a ripping apart. It can feel really, really painful energetically and of course emotionally and even physically. And so I guess I'm going to get a little personal, even though I don't necessarily enjoy doing that. Who does, right? I've lost a lot of people in my life. And what I mean by that is if there have been a lot of people who I loved in my family who have passed on. My grandfather was, I would say the oldest I can remember, but I do remember, I think my great aunt, like his sister, passing away when I was very, very little. I do remember like how that happened, right? But I wasn't very close to her. I didn't know her very well, and I was also very, very young, and I don't think I went to her funeral. I can't remember because it was so far back. But when my grandfather passed, I remember that being like a really big, like first impression of death and how grief really hit. And like the toll that it took, not just on me, but on my family. And as somebody who's very in tune and always has been very in tune with other people's energy, feeling that from everyone around me and my family really made it just that much worse, like being in a pressure cooker, right? At any moment, anything having to do with that situation could just set these people off into tears, bursts of anger, emotional reactions because it was so painful. That patriarch of the family that held it together so nicely, it was like a shattering, right? And it really affected, of course, my grandmother the hardest. And to me, being very young and seeing when he passed, like being right next to him when it had happened, was very traumatizing for me. It was something that I spent many, many years having to work through. And if I had also, little sidebar, it was also one of my first experiences with the spiritual realm because after he had passed, I had an experience where I had seen him. And whether this be like an out-of-body experience or a dream or like peering past the veil into a different aspect of reality, right? Whatever you see it as, it was like I had seen a ghost of my grandfather. And that was really hard to try to explain to my grandmother and affected us both in a negative way as well, but was also part of my journey of becoming a more spiritual person and a medium and learning that I can channel different energies and things like that, okay? So, but I was like 8 years old, so I had no idea what was going on. I didn't realize what it all meant, but it could also have just been a projection of my experience of grief and how I was physically and mentally dealing with the loss, right? The idea that even though he had passed from the physical, he still existed in the spiritual, right? So that could have been my mind's way of coping with it. It just depends on how you look at it, right? How you view these things. Many, many years later, I believe in 2000, it was either, I'm sorry, not 2000, it was either 2019 or 2020. It was during the COVID epidemic, pandemic, whatever, during that whole thing. My grandmother ended up passing away, and this was so many years later. I don't even know how many years. I know it was like right around her 73rd birthday, I believe, like a week before her birthday, and she passed from lung-related problems. And the experience, I watched her pass on the phone because I couldn't go to the hospital. But my whole family, aunts, uncles, my brother was sitting next to me, like, we had all witnessed this, and it was another really painful experience, but because of how much I had grown and learned and became in tune and in touch with channeling and divination and mediumship and learning my beliefs on the spirit realm and what comes after. You don't have to agree with all these things, of course. These are just my own personal experiences, but that reshaped my perspective on grief. Like, it had hit me so much differently because I had seen her again, like I saw my grandfather, but in a different way. After she had passed, and not only that, but there were messages coming through that I knew had to have been from her. And then I would dream about her, and she would talk to me and specifically show me different things in my dreams to help me on my journey. And it's crazy because we did not agree on a lot of things when it came to religion and spirituality, which is fine. We don't have to. We still loved each other, cared for each other very much. And to me, it was though she had become a spirit guide of mine after she had passed and was teaching me things. Okay, I'm back. So anyway, she was teaching me things, and I remember distinctly having a few nights in a row where I had dreamt about her coming to me and talking to me about something that we had not resolved in our physical reality together. And it ended up feeling as though we had resolved it through these dream conversations or astral conversations. And that helped me gain closure. So, depending on how you believe the world works and how you believe the spiritual and astral realms, if you believe in them and all of that, this is one way that you can help process grief, right? If you can figure out a way to resolve these things through the astral realm or through mediumship or even journaling and just writing down what you believe they would say to you in a journal entry, like responding to your questions, going back and forth that way. That's one way that you can try to gain some closure in that area if that's something that you believe in and a way that you think that you could work through it, right? And of course, I would always recommend, talking to a therapist or anything like that if you feel that that's necessary in these situations. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that we all have different ways of resolving and going through and healing these deep grief moments in our lives, depending on what they consist of and how we feel that we have lost something. And so my last example for this video, because it's getting pretty long, is that my daughter asked me the other day, and I can't remember if I'd made a video on this yet or not, but it goes along with this, so just follow with me if you can. She asked me the other day to find a picture of me from when I was her age. And I knew that they existed out there, but I didn't have any personally. And I didn't even have any on my page because I've had many different Facebook pages and things like that I ended up deleting. And so I started going back through other people's pages and my family and friends and things like that. And I still couldn't find any. And I had this moment of realization where I felt as though I had been erased, right? And I know that's not true, but for a moment it hit me as a loss of self. Um, and so I had to grieve the fact that that time period in my life is no longer available to me to pull images from, right? So all I have is my memories, and I can't at this point in time find any images of me from when I was my daughter's age to show her for, she wanted to compare what we looked like because we've always looked very similar. She wanted to know what I looked like at her age. And that was a very pivotal time in my life because she's almost the age I was when I met her father. And it was a big um, transition period for me. And so I did have to sort of grieve the fact that I had lost a lot of those relationships. A lot of the friends that I used to know at that time did not have any pictures of me, which, it is what it is. We fall in and out of people's lives and things like that, but we're all still connected energetically. And so to me, it was a lesson in grieving a loss of myself or a part of myself, even though it was a very important part of my timeline in my past. And so all I can do at this time is pull from the memories. So as long as we hold on to those memories, that's another way to sort of work through that type of grief. But there are many different types of grief that people go through, of course. And again, it all comes back to the energetic connection, the feeling of a severing or breaking of, or a loss of a part of yourself or a connection with another person. And so um, these things, as far as the emotional scale goes, yes, they are things that we will have to work through in order to rise up on that emotional scale, right? So however you deal with it is completely and entirely up to you. You can journal it out. You can try to do mediumship if you think it'll help. Sometimes it makes matters worse, especially if you seek out other people to try to channel that energy. A lot of times when you're doing the inner work, it's more personal, and yeah, it can hit harder, but again, it's up to what you're available for, what you're ready for, what you can handle, right? And there's always the choice to reach out to someone for therapy or um, get a consultation and see if you can maybe find a group um, that can help you work through these things as well. And so I guess that's it for this video for today. I feel like I had more to say on the topic, but this video is getting really long. So um, if you are going through these things, it's completely and entirely normal. In my life, in this lifetime, I guess I should say, I have experienced many different types of grief on many different levels. And I mean, I've been to, I believe, I counted it up at one point, 17 funerals for family members and people that I cared about a lot. And they always hit different. And that's, of course, the grief of a death. There's also grieving relationships and friendships and past versions of yourself. There's all these different types of grief that we can hold on to and hold in our bodies. And a lot of times that weighs us down because we don't know how to work through it, right? And so my advice is just to try whatever methods you think already work for you really well when it comes to other types of shadow work and things like that. Like for me, a lot of times it's journaling, especially when it comes to if you do like chat GPT and things like that, you can get feedback for the things that you're journaling. If you need a deeper feedback, if you need a personal connection, therapy is the best way to go, I would say. Or even just speaking to other people who have been through things that you have been through. But we all experience these losses in our lifetimes. One key thing that I think is important to understand is that when you have the deeper understanding that energy never truly dies, it just transmutes, right? When you have that as a core belief, it really helps you to know that even when you um, go through these periods of loss and pain, it's temporary because at some point, whether you believe in God or whatever your religion or spiritual beliefs consist of, right? a lot of times there's always something on the other side. And so nothing's ever truly lost when you consider it that way, when you think of it that way. It's just temporary disconnection. If you believe that way. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you what to believe. But that idea, that philosophy can really help if you consider the fact that, like, if you're a Christian, you will meet again in heaven after this life is done, after you've completed your journey. And in heaven, time moves differently. And so what may feel like a whole lifetime for us may only be a short amount of time in the other realms, right? Before you're reconnected with that soul. Because our soul and our consciousness never truly dies. Again, I'm not telling you what to believe. That's just my philosophy, my belief system. And so you will always be reconnected. You will always come back around to all of those energies that you were once connected to in some way. And so that's one way to look at it too that might help. Anyway, that's my take on it. I hope this helps. If you need help with something having to do with that, please reach out to someone. Someone you love, someone you trust, a counselor. You can, I don't actually work with BetterHelp, but I hear that's a really great resource. So you can always try that if you're interested in receiving some sort of clarity and therapy. But yeah, that's my take on it. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back. The next set of videos I'm doing on this series will be not in Aquarius season. So a full 28 days will go by before I start the next set, because it's every other season that I'm doing these. So the next set will be in Pisces season, so around March. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this series. Please let me know what you think. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.